Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. I'm Cindy Kainz. We have a wonderful show for you today. We're going to be talking about a young man who started off in the fourth grade with a passion to help other kids. And he's grown his business and has written a book. So we're going to go and get right into it. He's had over 2,000 celebrity interviews. He's spent over 10,000 hours working on his Global Kid Media company, and he is the founder and president. I'd like to welcome to Bottom Line, Vedant Gupta. Welcome, Vedant, to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm really excited because I just love to see when you get someone who's younger, has such a passion, and then has just developed it, and now wants to share it and help others, especially young kids today. And so that's where I'd like to start with you. In fourth grade, you had a passion, and you were looking at that. Can you describe kind of what happened back then and to drive you to develop the global kid media business?
Yeah, so Global Kid Media actually started when I was in sixth grade, but the passion started in fourth grade. And what it was I was visiting some family in India, and my cousin used to have all these inspirational quotes on his walls. And one of them said, it was a poem that said, "You are a special person." And as a 8-year-old at the time, I looked at that and I said, the high school in my town has an issue where there's a kid taking their life every year. And maybe older people trying to tell them, it's not worth it. Maybe that's not working. So maybe they need to hear it from a younger person. And that's where I came up with the idea that, I'm going to take this poem back and I'm going to speak on the high school announcements. And from there, I kind of realized that I like communication. I liked helping other people, and I wanted to take it to a bigger scale. So my parents started putting me in speech competitions. I developed a knack for communication. And on the side, I love sports. I played about every sport there is. And eventually, I put the two together, sports and media, which was communication to me, and Global Media was born.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. One, for taking such a sobering topic, of teen suicides, depression, and being out there to help kids do that. Now, you also did something that I think was great. Also, for sixth grade, you also started doing some cancer fundraising for one of your classmates. Could you speak to some of that?
Yeah, so in fifth grade, one of my classmates was diagnosed with cancer, and me and a couple other kids were sitting in class and we're like, we got to do something. So it started off by making a video just with a bunch of teachers and a bunch of people, and a really fun, positive, entertaining video for her. And then we decided we wanted to do more. So with the music teacher, we organized a fundraiser. It was fifth graders at the time. It was mostly three of us, and that's kind of where I got my start in the business world, I guess. We went business to business, asked for sponsorships, and put together a huge fundraiser with a goal of raising a certain amount of money and raising $1,000 plus more than we expected.
Yeah. And when you started to develop more and more of that, and I think it's wonderful too, because, you had such supportive parents. And as, kids do today, and if we have some younger kids and children watching or parents, how would you say they could start to develop that into something and help? Because to know that even though since they're young, they can still make a big impact on the world.
I think it's just that. I think a lot of times we tell ourselves as young people, hey, I got to wait till I'm an adult. I got to wait till I'm an older person, to go do this thing. But it starts with parents and kids and their family telling their kids that whatever you want to do, you know, you can do those things now. You don't have to wait. And I think that's really important.
I think that's, like you said, a key message to do, and it's been extremely successful for you. And I give you kudos because reading your background, all that, it wasn't just because you're doing all this great work with kid media. It was also you're playing all these sports. You've got and you're doing that, keeping up your grades and working on that. So that's a lot, and it takes a lot of drive to do that. So hats off to you being able to do that. And I'm fascinated to try to find out, even as a young kid back then, how did you start getting these interviews with celebrities and the sports interviews? Because as you know, it's not that easy. And, reading some of the information, you had your share of security guards and so forth. But can you say how your first few interviews got going?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons I even wanted to write a book in the first place, was to share that behind the scenes stories. A lot of people see me with celebrities, but they don't see how I got there. And it's a lot of obstacles, especially as a young person. People say, wait till you're 18 years old, then we'll give you access. or they'll discriminate against me and say, you know, you don't look like you're supposed to be here. I'm going to kick you out. And it was a lot of just showing up places, you know, hotel lobbies. Being in Michigan, everything's cold. So standing outside stadiums late at night in the freezing cold, literally the hard grind, blood, sweat, and tears that I put into it. But, you know, me and my dad, two-person team, we worked together and we made it happen. And it wasn't always fun, but there was a bigger goal in mind, and I wanted to inspire other people. So being a trailblazer, it's tough sometimes, but it's all worth it.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really key is, like you said, they can say, oh, look at him. He's talking to Patrick Mahomes, or look at him. He's talking to, and it's one of those things that says, well, wait, how did he get there? How did he, get the bumps and bruises and the tough, discussions of standing out in the cold, or getting kicked out. So I have to ask you though, how did you determine who you wanted to interview and how you would go to various locations? Because I know you traveled many places with your father, and, you're spending your own money at the time doing that.
Yeah, so actually for us, the way we were able to travel is we offset expenses. That's where I started to love business. I'd work with different companies, hotels, you know, cruise lines, destinations, restaurants, where I'd start promoting them on my social media and, you know, in return being able to get the service or you know, make money or do something like that. So was what helped me have the opportunity to go travel places, to be different places. And another part of it that is just really important to me, it's a grind and nothing's handed to you. So it is expensive to travel places. You got to find a way to get around that.
Yeah. After all your years of doing all the interviews and kind of learning the ins and outs the hard way, did you find certain tricks and tips that helped you, along the way to get access to some of these celebrities and sports figures?
I think I'll say this. I think over time I started to realize there's a lot of people who have a big name, right? And everyone's trying to get to them. But what's more valuable than anything when you talk to someone is what you can gain from that conversation. And it doesn't have to be the biggest celebrity in the world that you gain it from. I think I learned talking to the families of celebrities or players, talking to their close friends, or even when I talk to them, asking about the things that matter, what they're doing to give back, about the things that they care about. You go a lot further than just chasing that big name or just chasing that, you know, that clout question. So I think that was a tactic that really meant a lot to me was understanding that the people around, you know, that celebrity have a lot of great stuff and great value to share as well. And it could be anyone you talk to. You know, I always said, and my dad always said, whether it's a janitor or the biggest celebrity in the world, you know, you could gain something from that.
Yeah. I think that is a huge, valuable, piece of information you share that everybody should, have, no matter who they are. You can learn something from them or glean some information. Everybody has something to offer, that's for sure. And I think that's a great, like you said, you spent time with the families and the friends, and, they're really going to know what's going on. And I'm sure for that star person too, as well as, it takes a lot to get to where you're at and what you've done. And it's not all that fame and fortune you see at the very end. It's all those hard practices, as you know, and all those hours on with the books and all those hours standing out in the cold or, waiting for that one moment. I'm curious, along the way, did you still feel that being a kid, so to speak, this young kid, you still, they didn't want to take you seriously? Or did you think, did it help at certain points to get into, to see the person? Because I know usually when you finally get to, celebrity, you get to a person, but sometimes it's the security guards, it's their, media presence and their, managers around them to try to get past.
Yeah, I'll say this. It never got easier to get past the security or get past the credentials. It was very rare that I ever had a credential to something. I was usually doing it on my own. But as I got older, I was making more connections. And especially being a kid, whenever you finally do get to the person, they always appreciate it for the most part. So that was the cool thing is, you know, whoever you're talking to, they're going to appreciate your age. They're going to appreciate talking to you because they're not really used to that. They're not used to um, not everyone's asking the positive questions. Not everyone's chasing a positive story. So doing that and actually getting to someone was always positive results. But I wouldn't say it necessarily got easier to get around the security or the media personnel.
Yeah. And, in one way, I guess that's good to protect a person themselves. So that's probably what, security's doing their job in that fashion. But like you said, I think it's difficult to, like you said, just to get in to see them. But again, because everybody who's young probably had a dream. And most people, when they're young and they can appreciate a young kid or a younger person, asking them because they remember what it was like when they were younger. So I have to ask you, of all your interviews, of all your interviews, was there one or two that stood out for a reason? And I don't mean because it was a famous person, or was it the insight that they provided you?
Absolutely. There's two interviews that stick out to me in my career, and I've done about 2,000, but there was these kids at the Special Olympic or from the Special Olympics at the Pro Bowl a few years back in 2019, and there was a flag football game between the Special Olympics kids and the NFL players. And just watching that event was really cool. But afterwards, I was interviewing some of the players like Patrick Mahomes, uh, Von Miller, but I also got a chance to do an interview with some of the kids from the Special Olympics, and just sheer joy, sheer excitement, uh, a lot of genuine faces. That was by far the coolest thing I've ever done. And the other one was Chris Nikic. He won the Jimmy V Award for excellence at the ESPYS a few years back. First athlete with Down syndrome to complete the Ironman triathlon. And his story is really inspiring, and talking to him inspired me a lot. So it's those interviews that go a lot further, necessarily than just the big names.
Right. One of the things, you speak about a lot, and you have, of course, on your websites and things, is trying to step out of the box for kids. And can you explain a little bit more as we, focus in, how can kids start with their passion? What might be, if they're not sure how to go about it, what might you tell them?
Sometimes it's as simple as just starting. I mean, with a media company, you would think you need all these different things, a camera, a microphone, all this stuff. When I first started with my dad, all we had was a camera, an iPhone camera, um, just a camera app. We press record and go and post it on social media. And I think that's one of the great things about the resources we have. Everyone has a platform. No matter where you are, who you are, you have a platform because social media exists. And I think it's important to just use your platform for the right things. And if you have a passion, get started. Take the first steps. If it doesn't work out, you're no worse off. If anything, you learn something. And one of my favorite things I used to like to talk about, I had a show during COVID-19 on Instagram Live, and I did about almost 300 episodes. And one of my favorite things to talk about is when you hit rock bottom, you can't go any further down. You can only go up. So, and that's a chapter in my book. Failure is the best way to learn how to succeed. Just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. You learn something from it and you grow.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. You learn from your mistakes. We all know that, as hard as it may be, and how, you can make you feel pretty negative and not so good. But can you talk to, because I know you've got doing some partnerships too, and I think those are really important. With Hugh Jackson on trafficking, can you speak maybe to that one a little bit more? I know that's a real important topic to help these days.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple different foundations that I've worked with, Successful Jocks, MSC Cruises, hashtag Super Coral Play, when I was out at the Super Bowl in Miami, promoting their Super Coral Play initiative to preserve corals. And then Jackson's a former NFL coach, great coach, and he has a foundation that's preventing trafficking. His team and him have been incredible. So um, it was just connecting with those foundations that meant something to me, and reaching out and saying, I want to contribute as a kid ambassador. How can I help? Because this is something I'm passionate about.
And that's amazing to do those. And, you also talk about reverse mentoring. For someone who's watching and may not know, what is that? What are your intentions when you say reverse mentoring?
Yeah, so that comes back to the thing I did in fourth grade. A lot of times people don't understand the power of the youth, right? We always think that it has to be an adult delivering a message. And um, of course, the adults want the best for us. But if I'm a high school student and an elementary school kid comes up to me, who looks up to me, and they tell me a message, I consider that reverse mentoring. I mean, that's going to go a long way. I mean, this is a kid who I think I'm a role model to. And if they're telling me something, if they're delivering a message, you bet I'm listening. And sometimes naturally as kids, we tune out adults. So I think reverse mentoring can go a long way where, we do get these younger kids who are very bright, who have a lot of great ideas to speak up.
Right. And I'm curious, you mentioned you have all these hours that you've worked on all the interviews. There's also, your show that you do, your podcasts, and you have partnerships and that. And then what made you say, you know what, I'd like to put this into a book to share?
Yeah, I think it starts with a lot of my goals changing. I mean, I'll be honest with you straight up here. I'm not the biggest reader in the world, so writing a book was not the most exciting idea in the world to me. But um, I always thought when I first started, I'd be the first kid on national TV as a sideline reporter, simply for the fact that I could inspire other kids that, I'm doing it, so can you. And that didn't end up happening. My goals shifted a lot, but I realized through writing a book, I could share my message and hopefully inspire other people. So that's been the sole purpose of writing a book is I want to share my story. I want to share the behind the scenes stories, the lessons that I've learned. Every chapter is a life lesson and hopefully inspire you. And I also talk about in my book how to do a little bit of the things I've done, how to make money, how to travel, how to, write a book.
And that's curious because I've never written a book, of course, and I've always been, fond of folks who say they can sit down and write a book. So I had the question I always ask or want to ask someone is, how do you do that? I mean, how do you have to, you're just sitting down and you're cranking at the computer and just putting down your thoughts and everything you have. And
Yeah. I'll say this with the book. It was a 2 year process. I mean, it wasn't easy. I had to sit down after a really long week of playing sports, going to school, maybe traveling, doing a lot of work with my media company, and I'd have to sit down and write. And, my dad pushes me a lot. We go at it a lot, but especially in those times, to sit down, buckle down, and write a book, man, that was tough. But I will say, once you have that book written, once you have a foundation, once you have like even a Word document, self-publishing is really easy and it's free. So that's all I did.
yeah. Now, do you have to work on it? Because I haven't seen it, but the illustrations and that, do you have people who help you kind of edit the book and help you with, some of those type of things as you put chapter and chapter together?
I actually don't have any illustrations. That's something I'm working on now, improving the book. Getting a better cover. I just kind of picked a generic cover. But for the base of just having a book that's 340 pages and a decent cover and, has all the chapters and all the formatting right, um, it wasn't a big hassle at all. I mean, we did it all ourselves between me and my dad, just proofread and proofread and proofread, and um, we even published the book and then went back, edited it, and came out with. We changed it from Global Kid Media, a kid entrepreneur's time traveling story, to a kid entrepreneur's time traveling journey. So we made little tweaks here and there, but for me so far, I haven't had any team or anything like that.
That's amazing because I don't I myself wouldn't have thought it would be that easy. And not that it's easy, I was going to say to do that, but most of the time you think you need a publisher ahead of time, you need somebody to support you and so on. And here you did all the research with your dad and you were able to publish a book and then even edit it and and continue to work on it. So again, even that I think in itself is a great inspiration to younger kids or even younger adults, or as you said, reverse mentoring for people who might be seniors that might thought about, hey, I'd like to try to do this. And have you seen have some life lessons that you would share from when you were Verdant in fourth grade and now you're in college? Some things that you would say to yourself over those years?
Oh boy, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd say don't worry about anything. I mean, do what you got to do, and everything that happens kind of happens for a reason. You got to trust the process. So I think especially when I was at that younger age, I was afraid to fail. When I get kicked out of places, I get scared. When people would tell me no, I'd get discouraged. And looking back on it now, man, if that little kid could just stay a little bit stronger and just stick with it, it goes a long way. And that's part of life. That's something you learn, and that's something that I try to tell other people as well. Like, you can't give up, you can't stop trying, and when you go all in something, you got to give it your all. And it's not going to be fun every day when you wake up, but it's the things that set us apart, a successful person from someone who's not as successful, is who's consistent, who's willing to do it over and over and over again. And so trusting that process, trusting what you're doing, trusting your work ethic, your work, and that'll get you where you want to go. And
So
I say that knowing that, in college now it's a new world. I've got a long ways to go. So that's advice that still rings true. And, whether I'm, 12, 18, or one day when I'm 50, 60, like it's the same thing. No matter where you're at, consistency and working hard is going to get you where you want to go in whatever you're doing.
And I'm curious, in that younger self that you're talking about, how did you end up, saying, okay, let's go, I got kicked out, let's go. I'm not discouraged. I'm just going to, get going and keep plugging away at this. Was it your father? Maybe was it someone who was helping you, or was it yourself that just picked up? Is there some tips and tricks that you would talk to the younger kids to say, hey, keep going, keep going?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, part of it was definitely a big part of it was my dad. I mean, he pushed me to, limits sometimes that, I didn't think I was capable of going, but you're always capable of more than you think you are. And so to have someone pushing you and saying you're not going to give up no matter what. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, there were nights or days where, I'd go to lift before school, get up at 5 a.m., go lift, go to school, and I took 11 AP classes over my high school career. So these are hard classes, and then I'd go to practice or I'd have a game after, and I'm getting home at 6 to 8, somewhere in that range. And then I got homework, and then I got to post my company, or I got to travel the next day. And it's discouraging, especially when you're not necessarily getting results and everything. But I think it was learning to trust the process and, knowing that I'm not going to be the one to give up. Because if you give up, then you let everyone who said you couldn't win. And 90%, 99% of the people said I couldn't. And so that motivated me, and then just having someone to really push me, not always in the way I liked it, but it got the job done.
Yeah, that's a tough lesson sometimes. Like you said, getting pushed, and someone believes in you, like your father has, and wants to make sure he knows you can do it. And yeah, okay, and then he's pushing you and pushing you. It's like, stop, Dad, stop. But you know what? You are where you're at today, not just from him, but from what you have inside. And I think what you're doing is you're providing those things to the people that are younger and that can say, yes, I can do it. Just because you're, called a kid or a child doesn't mean you don't have value. It doesn't mean you can't be successful. Can't believe the reverse mentoring that you talked about. It's key. It's key. And sometimes I think people don't listen to the younger folks. They have a lot of good things to say. We always think everybody's older, you get some bumps and bruises, it gets you smart and knowledgeable. But I think a lot of times, we need to stop and listen, to our young folks, because they're wise. They're
I think it's
wise.
a bit of both, right? It's a bit of both, and the people who are experienced know what they're doing in the field. They've been
Mhm.
experienced, they're professionals, or they're where they're at for a reason. So it's important to listen to them. But I think sometimes it's refreshing to hear from the future, right? What do you want? The world's evolving, things are changing, and these younger people are the ones who are going to run it, right? So let's hear
Right.
from them. Let's hear what they think once in a while, and it's a good balance.
Yeah. And as you say, you're developing global kid media, your business here. Where do you see that going as it develops into the future? Because as you said, you've kind of evolved. Your interests have evolved. Your working and what you're doing has evolved. Can you talk about how it's moving to the future?
Absolutely. So right now, I've been mostly focused on my book, and I'm a paid speaker, so I've been looking for different opportunities to share my message at different speaking events, especially the young people. I've been at an elementary school classroom, at a middle school camp. I've talked to the Rotary Club and talked to a lot of different people there, but just looking at, I spoke at a club at a college at the University of Michigan, an entrepreneurship club. So that's one of the things I'm looking for. Other than that, I'm at Michigan State University. I'm being a student. I'm trying to go to every career fair I can, get, every part of that experience as an education, and learning the business part of a business, So I'm pursuing a business degree right now, either management or marketing. So learning about the intricate details of how things work, that's really important to me. I want to continue to be an entrepreneur, and maybe I shift and go a different way, or um, for global community to be successful, I got to get other young people involved. So understanding how a business really works from every different field, I think that'll help me be a better entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have, are you going to continue to do some of the interviews as you have, if it fits into your schedule?
Yeah, for me with the interview, if the interviews, if a big opportunity comes up, I'm definitely always willing to do it, or if it's something that's for a good cause. But for the most part, it's kind of hard being on campus, being a full-time student, and trying to be involved in everything here, and then still running that. So the interview side slowed down a little bit, but as far as the message is still the same, and I think that's what the book's promoting, and that's what me being a speaker is promoting.
Yeah. And I would ask if, as you're looking through college and as you're looking through your degree and business degree, where do you kind of see yourself maybe in 4 to 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, I always say, who knows where I'm at tomorrow, right? I mean, things come up and your schedule changes, and suddenly you're doing something that you never thought you'd be doing. So it's hard to say where I'll be in 4 to 5 years, but hopefully I'll have a degree. One of my big goals before I graduate college is I want to have a foundation. Giving back is really important to me, and I think having a foundation is really a great way to do that. So that's one of the goals of mine. And other than that, I want to have a platform to inspire people. So just growing that platform. I guess everyone has a platform, but growing mine to um, help others and inspire people is really important to me.
Right. And when you're looking back, and like you said, you're, especially with Global Kid Media and getting more, kids involved and so on. And even like you said, being at college, it could limit you there at the university and so forth. But how do you see that if somebody's saying, hey, I'm interested, how do I get involved?
As far as the media,
Yeah, should they just reach out probably to you and contact you on your website and say, "Hey, can I get involved in Global Kid Media? And what can I do? What can I get involved in?"
absolutely. If anyone has any questions, of course you can submit the form on globalkidmedia.com. That's globalkid.com. Or you can reach out to me on social media at globalkid, excuse me, globalkid KID media, and always connect with me that way. But I can't stress it enough. The biggest way to get involved is just to start. Um, Again, everyone has that platform, and it doesn't have to be sports media. Whatever you want to do. If you're a kid and you like to cook and you want to have a cooking show, start making an episode. Start launching it. There's YouTube, there's social media, and you never know where it goes. But just follow your passions. Don't be scared of anything, and don't be scared to get started, and don't be scared to fail.
I think those are all wonderful words of wisdom, and you've actually showed that you've been able to be successful, and even when you've had some failures, which makes you into the great person you are today, and you're goal oriented and you're moving along. And do you see yourself maybe having probably more companies in the future, as you mentioned yourself as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about Michigan State is they're very supportive of startup companies, and um, I see myself with the startup company hopefully maybe this year. So right now we're just I'm doing a lot of brainstorming, doing a lot of research, coming up with something, and hopefully launching at some point.
Yeah. Well, as we kind of get close to the end of the show here, and that I was going to ask you, I know you gave a lot of great input and information and shared, but is there some final words of wisdom you would say to the younger you or younger kids that are out there, no matter where they live, and, to how to succeed or keep going?
Yeah, this is something that's really important to me, and I think I've touched on it a little bit. But every person, you're you, and nobody else is you. So you gotta understand that no matter what you're doing, you gotta believe in yourself because no one else is like you. No one else is capable of doing the things that you're doing when you're the best version of yourself. And understanding that, seeing the value in yourself. Not everyone will. I mean, there's enough people I've seen on my journey, you'll see on your journey, a lot of people are looking to close the door on you. So if you're not willing to do the very least and believe in yourself, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Well, Vedant, thank you so much for being on Bottom Line. Thank you for what you're doing to help the young kids out there. I think that, all the things that you've said and all the things that you've shared in your website and, and culminating that into a book and being an author, it just shows that dreams can come true. And also, you're continuing those things now in university and building into, a future for yourself. So again, thank you so much for being on Bottom Line.
Yeah, bottom line, I love it, and you're a great host, so thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. And I thank your audience for watching. And no matter what age you are, Vedant gave us such great insight and things to remember, the reverse mentoring and just words of wisdom that he's provided all of us. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I thank you for watching. I'm Cindy Kainz.